First on warming, sent across the warming card. It says that other countries want to follow the United States because of technological lead. It's not based off the global law system. It's because other countries want to. They're going to want to see. They're going to see that our injection of technology into the grid. And they're going to follow that example, especially countries like China. So that's going to be able to solve for all of warming. Then they make this SO2 term, but they don't extend across an impact into this. So there's no reason to vote for it in the first place. And if anything, CO2 is the biggest emitter, is the biggest cause of global warming. That's the fairy card. And then the bottom extend across that. The fairy will also answer that. It says that electricity is key to solving for CO2 because it's 40% of emissions in the world right now. That if we're able to solve for that, we're able to solve for the majority of warming. And then you go on to the grid flow. Okay, we're not going to go for this, but I'll answer the turns here. They say that it'll trade off with DoD energy balance, but the plan isn't utilizing federal government funds. It's just utility companies their funds. So that means that once the plan is passed, there's no reason it would trade off with focus. It's not a funding issue. Also, and so that'll take out any chance of it, any chance of a trade off in the first place. And then go on to the K with an overview at the top. First is that case outweighs it extend across the warming. It says tickle. Says that unless we reduce our emissions by 40% by 2030, that's going to do extinction because of things like melting polar ice caps and the rising sea level. So that's going to mean that's going to collapse. That's going to collapse the global system. So that means everyone's going to die within 18 years unless we're able to reverse this. And then so you should vote right there on the time frame argument. Especially when they give no specific example of who's going to die and when based off specific plan action. The next thing sent across the Mendoza card, it says that the plan is key to create a green economy because people are more involved with the nature and they pay attention to their consumptive practices because they're the ones creating this energy in the first place. They're not just buying it from an ambiguous energy company. So this will at the very least this will solve it. So this will solve X on the K impacts, and at the very least it means that the plan is a step in the right direction and would probably fall in. So that'll check back against some of their links in the first place, and then there's no alt analysis in the 2 hour. So that means they're not going to be able to solve for conventional emissions by 2030. So you should vote on the global warming flow right now. But then go on to the K flow first. On the top, they say extinction. They say techno arrogance argument leads to extinction. But the first cross by my analysis about Mendoza means that the green economy is able to check back against us because we reframe the view of technology so that even if we are consumptive, it's still better than status quo. So that means that at the very least we reduce some of the deaths that would be inevitable right now. And then they said the value to life. They make this value to life argument, but extend across here. He says that we're going to be able to solve for this value. We're going to be able to solve for their value to life arguments because not having energy is uniquely dehumanizing right now in the status quo. Says that that's going to lead to things like future Nazi type genocides because we're going to pick out the people who don't have the energy. So that means that the plan is uniquely able to solve that, especially because they can see the Mormon cards, which means we're able to solve for renewables throughout the entire world, and then make this energy the sustainable lifestyle argument. But that's relevant because we're able to solve for that. That's exactly what they have. And then they say the renewables aren't going to be able to solve. But even if we are just a band-aid solution, we're a step in the right direction. Cross my analysis from the overview, and so that'll check against this in the first place. And then any deaths that would result were inevitable in the status quo due to the consumptive processes. That means that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter even if we are just a band-aid solution. Those deaths would be inevitable in the first place. If we're able to solve for something like warming, that's probably a reason you should vote for the affirmative over inevitable deaths. And then they say this flow. They make this shit in the creek argument, but that's the status quo that they're describing. That the green economy is able to solve. That's the Mendoza analysis again. That the plan means that plan means that the feed-in tariff is passed, and that we no longer have to focus on global warming. That means that we're going to be able to turn around and catch the people that are shitting in the creek in the first place. So that'll turn back the arguments, and if anything, that'll probably that means the affirmative will turn the K arguments because that makes a good consumptive process, and that'll turn back all their impacts because the case would be able to solve that in the first place. And then next they say that hedge is unsustainable without the economy, but there's no they have no internal link to economic collapse, and we're not going for a hedge in the first place. So that's relevant. And then they say that the K is a prior question, but extend our interpretation that they have to be counterplan or status quo because without that it's unpredictable. There's thousands of Ks out there, but even if they win their frame arguments, that only means that they get to weigh it against the F impacts, and they give no analysis about why the K is a prior question. It's just they just extend across the card. So if anything, you should the prior question should be the amount of people dying, especially because we're both especially because they make no ethical claims in the round. So that means that you should prefer whoever solves for the biggest amount of deaths in the status quo. So we'll win. That's the affirmative, especially that we solve for the most people dying first, and they extend across. And then global warming is the crux of the issue, not the K. Especially when there's an alt analysis of it, and that means the fit policy becomes the crux about how to solve for the most people dying in the status quo. And then cross my analysis about how there's no alt solvency. That means that means there's going to be no they give no analysis about how the alternative would lead to a transition to renewables. That means that global warming must still be inevitable under the alternative. So that's inevitable. That's inevitable. So that's inevitable extinction of the entire world under their alternative. That's a reason you should vote affirmative right there as well. And then they make this all policies doomed argument, but that's in the context of conventionals, not renewables. And then extended across the two parties said the 2030. That means it's try for the affirmative. Even if all policies are doomed, also the partisan isn't specific to feed into. So that means that they don't get their blanket claims, and all the reasons why policies would be doomed are because they're conventional process of how we consume this energy. The Mendoza Evans will check this back because it's a new type of consumption process. And then they make the severance argument first, reject the argument of the team. We're not even going to go for the perm in the first place, but that's not a reason to vote us down. And then on the back they say that incentives lead to demand side, but this is irrelevant because we're not going for the economy part of this, and then we're not going for the economy part of the flow. It doesn't matter if we're demand side, and Mendoza will check this back again as well. That he's going to win the overall debate for us because we create a better form of consumptive processes right now that we're able to check back against all. We're able to check back against all the links, and that even if they do win some form of a link against us, that first the time frame of the global warming is able to outweigh that, and that green economy means we're able to solve those. Oh, and on the front they say the consumptive process. It means that we're only going to be we're going to have to keep consuming more energy, but the plan but extend across the fit means infinite energy because the sun and the wind is constantly blowing. That means we're not going to have to do things like keep mining, destroying the environment. So that'll turn back against any of their case turns. So that the time frame of the global warming and the no all solvency means you're going to vote affirmative in this one.